Before Rome had emperors, before Greece built philosophy, before most humans even learned to write, a river was already building a civilization. Every year it flooded the land. Every year it destroyed everything. And every year it gave life back again. Without this river, Egypt would not exist. No pyramids, no temples, no pharaohs, only desert. But along these waters, millions of ordinary people woke every morning to farm, cook, trade, pray, love, and survive. Not kings, not gods, just people. This is their story. Egypt, 1300 BCE, and everything begins with the Nile. From the sky, Egypt looks impossible. Endless red desert stretches in every direction, cracked, dry, lifeless. Then suddenly, cutting through it like a vein of emerald, green, fields, trees, water, the Nile. A miracle running through stone. Each summer, rains fall far away in Africa's mountains. Weeks later, the river swells, slowly, silently. Then it spills over its banks. The flood covers everything: homes, fields, paths. At first glance, it looks like disaster. But Egyptians don't panic. They wait. Because when the water retreats, it leaves behind thick black soil, soft, rich, perfect for farming. They call their homeland Kemet, the Black Land. The desert around them, Deshret, the Red Land. Life surrounded by death. Too little flood means famine. Too much flood means destruction. So every year, the entire civilization watches the river like their lives depend on it. Because they do. And when nature controls everything, you begin to believe someone must control nature. That is how gods are born. Long before sunrise, Hapu wakes. He is not important. No monument will remember him. But he represents almost everyone in Egypt. A farmer. He sleeps on a reed mat inside a small mud brick house. The air smells of smoke and grain dust. His wife is already working, grinding wheat between two stones, back and forth, back and forth. The sound is slow and steady, like breathing. Bread is life here. Without bread, nothing else matters. She mixes flour with water and presses dough into a clay oven. Beside it sits a jar of beer, not for celebration, for breakfast. Beer is safer than water and full of nutrients. Even children drink it. Outside, the first light touches the fields. Hapu wraps a simple linen kilt around his waist, picks up a wooden plow, and walks toward the Nile. Another day begins, exactly like yesterday, exactly like tomorrow. The ground is still wet from the flood. Perfect. Farmers work together. Nobody survives alone. Oxen pull wooden plows through thick soil. Feet sink into mud. Mosquitoes buzz. Sweat forms instantly under the rising sun. Children scatter seeds by hand. Wheat, barley, flax. Every seed matters. Because there is no backup plan, no second chance. If this crop fails, families starve. Near the river stands a simple wooden pole with a bucket, the shaduf. A man pulls down the pole, lifts water, pours it into canals. Again, 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 hundreds of times. This is not heroic work, no songs, no glory, just endless labor. But this labor feeds everyone, the priests, the soldiers, the pharaoh himself. History remembers kings, but kings eat bread, and bread comes from hands like Hapu's. By midday, a boat arrives. Everyone notices. Government officials and a scribe. Clean linen, straight back, ink palette. To farmers, the scribe is more frightening than soldiers because he writes numbers, and numbers decide survival. He measures the fields, counts animals, estimates harvest, then records everything on papyrus. Taxes will come later. A portion of all grain now belongs to the state. No arguing, no bargaining. If the scribe writes it, it becomes truth. Without taxes, there are no temples, no army, no protection. So Hapu nods quietly. He gives up part of his life so Egypt can survive. Civilization always has a cost. In the afternoon heat, work slows. Children run to the Nile, laughing, splashing, throwing mud. For them, the river is not politics or taxes, it's freedom. They chase fish, climb palm trees, float on reed bundles. Some will grow into farmers, some into craftsmen. A few lucky ones might learn to read and become scribes, the only true escape from manual labor. But today, they are simply children, and the empire feels very far away. As the sun climbs higher, the Nile fills with boats. Long wooden vessels glide past, grain sacks stacked high, fish drying in nets, stone blocks for temples. Everything moves by water. Egypt has no roads. The Nile is the road. Food, taxes, messages, armies. If you control the river, you control the kingdom. Captains use wind to sail south, current to drift north. Simple, efficient, brilliant. The Nile is not just a river, it is Egypt's bloodstream. By late day, Hapu travels with a grain shipment toward the city. At first, only smoke appears, then noise, then something impossible. Stone towers rising from the horizon, temples taller than anything he has ever seen, columns like forests of rock, statues bigger than houses. Thebes, capital of the empire. If the village feels small and quiet, Thebes feels overwhelming, alive, crowded, loud. This is where power lives, and for a simple farmer, it feels like stepping into another world. The market explodes with life. Donkeys bray, metal clatters, vendors shout, bread bakes, fish stink in the heat, linen cloth shines white in the sun. People trade everything. Bread for sandals, grain for tools, beer for meat. Money barely exists. Food is currency. Life is simple, but organized. Because organization is what separates civilization from chaos. Egypt works because everyone knows their role. In a quiet corner, a boy practices symbols on broken pottery. Hieroglyphs, hundreds of them. Hard to learn, harder to master. But those who succeed become scribes, and scribes never farm, never haul stone. They sit in shade. They write history. If something is written, it lives forever. If not, it disappears. So quietly, the scribes control memory itself, and memory is power. If the market is loud, the temple is silent. Beyond the noise of Thebes rises something that feels impossible. Stone walls higher than trees, gateways thick as cliffs, columns so wide that 10 men together cannot wrap their arms around them. Karnak, the largest religious complex on earth. Not one building, but many, added by generations of pharaohs, each trying to leave a mark greater than the last. Walking inside feels like entering a mountain. The air cools, sound fades, light falls in thin golden beams through cracks above. Dust floats like stars. Every surface is carved. Kings offering gifts, gods towering over humans. Wars, prayers, victories. Stone remembers everything. Here, the most powerful being in Egypt lives, not the pharaoh, a god, Amun, king of the gods, father of creation, protector of the Nile. Inside the deepest room, hidden from ordinary people, stands his statue. Small, gold, silent. Yet priests treat it like a living king. They wake it at dawn, wash it, dress it, feed it bread and beer. Because to Egyptians, this is not a symbol. The god is truly here, watching, judging, controlling the universe. If the rituals stop, the sun might not rise, the flood might not come, everything might end. So every day, the rituals never stop. But sometimes the god leaves the darkness, and the entire city changes. Drums echo through the streets, flutes sing, people run toward the temple gates. Today is a festival. Priests lift a sacred shrine shaped like a boat onto their shoulders. Inside sits the statue of Amun, hidden behind curtains. Yet everyone believes he is there, watching them, blessing them. The procession moves slowly through the city. Incense fills the air. Women dance, children shout. Men raise their hands in prayer. For one rare moment, the distance between humans and gods disappears. Some cry, some beg for healing. Some whisper hopes for better harvests. Life is hard here, dangerous, uncertain. So faith becomes oxygen. Without it, how could anyone survive? When the shrine passes, people reach out to touch the wood, even for a second, because touching the god means touching eternity. By sunset, the statue returns to the temple, the doors close, and the divine world retreats again. Tomorrow, life goes back to normal. Work, sweat, taxes. But for today, the gods walk beside them. Above priests, above temples, above everyone stands one man, Pharaoh. Not just king, not just ruler, a god in human form, the living son of Amun. In 1300 BCE, Egypt is an empire. Gold flows from Nubia. Timber arrives from Lebanon. Tribute comes from conquered lands. Armies march thousands of kilometers under his command, and every victory is carved into stone walls. Because the pharaoh does not lose. If he loses, the universe would be out of order. At least that is what everyone must believe. When he appears in public, crowds kneel. Nobody looks him in the eyes, because looking directly at a god feels dangerous. Yet without farmers like Hapu, even a god would starve. It is a strange balance. Millions of ordinary lives supporting one divine one. Peace is beautiful, but it is fragile. Beyond the green valley waits the desert, and beyond the desert, enemies. So Egypt trains soldiers, young men with bows taller than themselves, spears, shields of leather and wood. Some drive chariots, the most terrifying machines of the ancient world. 2 horses, 2 men, flying across the sand, fast, deadly. A chariot charge can shatter an entire line of infantry. These soldiers protect trade routes, guard borders, fight wars far from home. Some will never see the Nile again, yet they fight for Pharaoh, for glory, for bread. Because even empires built on faith are defended with blood. As night approaches, the mood shifts, because Egyptians think about death differently. To them, death is not an ending, it is a journey. Life is only preparation for the real world beyond. So when someone dies, the body must be protected, preserved, because the soul needs it. In a quiet workshop, embalmers work carefully. They remove organs, dry the body with salt, wrap it in linen, layer after layer. Dozens of meters of cloth, amulets placed between the folds, prayers whispered. Not horror, not fear, but care. Because if the body survives, the person lives forever in the afterlife. Fields greener than the Nile, food without hunger, work without pain, an eternal Egypt. Better than this one, death, strangely, becomes hope. The sun sinks. Orange becomes purple, purple becomes blue. The heat finally fades, torches flicker, smoke rises from ovens. Families sit together outside their homes, sharing bread, talking softly. Children fall asleep on their mother's laps. Hapu watches the river glow in the dark. Today he planted seeds, paid taxes, walked through the greatest city in the world, prayed to gods he will never fully understand. Tomorrow, he will do it all again. And the day after that, and the day after that. He will never build a temple, never command an army, never have his name carved in the stone. But without him, none of it exists. The pharaoh, the temples, the empire, all of it rests on ordinary people like him. The Nile flows quietly beside the village, just as it has for thousands of years, just as it will for thousands more. Kings will die, temples will crumble, names will be forgotten. But the river keeps flowing, and somewhere in the darkness, Egypt breathes, alive, because of its people.